When you're standing in a hallway with a bucket of water spilling out of a busted pipe, or trying to get the last bit of coffee grounds out of a break room carpet, the choice of a wet-dry vacuum feels bigger than it should. You've got a dozen models on Amazon, a mix of home-grade units and the industrial-type beasts that promise commercial-grade performance. That gap between good enough for a garage and can keep a school hallway dry in minutes is where a lot of hesitation lives. I'm going to walk through exactly what the ProTeam ProGuard 20 brings to that middle ground, so you can tell whether it's the right tool for your daily messes or just another pricey piece of equipment you'll tuck away. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's frame the problem most buyers face. They need a machine that handles both liquids and solids, but they also want something you can actually move around a busy facility without turning the whole floor into a traffic jam. The ProGuard 20 is a 20-gallon wet-dry vacuum that claims a front-mount squeegee, a long 50-foot power cord, and a 10-foot hose. Those numbers sound impressive on paper, but what they really mean when you're on the job is a few concrete advantages and a couple of trade-offs. If you run a school, a restaurant, or a small warehouse, the large messes claim is the first thing you'll notice. A 20-gallon drum can hold roughly the volume of 3 standard buckets, which translates to being able to pull a full sink of water from a kitchen floor or a burst pipe without stopping to empty the tank. In a real-world scenario, I've seen custodial crews use a similar size unit to clear a cafeteria after a cafeteria-wide soda spill. They can mop up the liquid, then immediately vacuum the dried syrup without swapping machines. The convenience of that single-step process saves a lot of time, especially when you're on a tight cleaning schedule. The front-mount squeegee is another practical feature. It's not a separate accessory you have to attach later. You simply pull it across the floor, and the vacuum does the heavy lifting of sucking up the liquid as it goes. For a restaurant kitchen where grease and water often combine, that squeegee can pull a thin film of liquid off a tiled floor before it has a chance to seep into grout. It's a subtle efficiency boost, but it does mean you can cover a larger area with fewer passes. The only caveat is that the squeegee works best on relatively smooth surfaces. A heavily textured floor can cause the blade to chatter, reducing suction efficiency. Mobility is where ProTeam tries to stand out. The vacuum uses a variable wheel pattern and smooth casters that swivel easily, letting you navigate tight aisles or turn corners without dragging the unit. In a busy office building, I've watched a maintenance worker push the vacuum across carpeted hallways, then roll it onto a concrete hallway without any wobble. The smooth ride also reduces the effort needed to move the 55-pound machine, which is something you might not realize until you start lugging a comparable unit up a flight of stairs. The downside is that, despite the casters, the base is still fairly heavy, so if you need to lift it into a truck or store it on a high shelf, you'll need a second pair of hands or a small lift. Power is another real-world consideration. A 50-foot power cord gives you a decent radius in a large room, but it does mean you have to be mindful of cord placement to avoid tripping hazards. In a warehouse setting, you'll likely run the cord along the wall or across a designated cleaning lane to keep it out of the way of forklift traffic. The 10-foot hose, while long enough to reach into corners, can feel a bit short when you're cleaning a long, narrow aisle. You'll need to reposition the vacuum more often than you might like. That's a small ergonomic trade-off that becomes noticeable after a full day of use. Now, let's talk about who should actually invest in this machine. If you're a small to medium facility manager who deals with regular liquid spills, floor cleaning, and occasional dry debris, the ProGuard 20 hits a sweet spot. Schools with art programs, restaurants with high-traffic kitchens, and property management companies that need a reliable backup for flood-related emergencies will find the 20-gallon capacity and the built-in squeegee very useful. The included tool kit adds value, giving you a nozzle for fine dust, a wide-mouth nozzle for bulk debris, and a crevice tool for tight spots. You won't need to buy extra accessories right away. On the flip side, if you're a homeowner looking for a weekend project vacuum or a professional contractor who needs to haul a vacuum up ladders and through cramped crawl spaces, this model may feel overkill. The size and weight make it less suitable for tight residential closets, and the long cords can become a nuisance in smaller apartments. Likewise, if your primary cleaning task is fine dust removal rather than liquid pickup, a smaller dry-only unit would be